Questions? Okay. This is Tuesday, October 10th, and we're doing the gridded response practice before we do the 2.2 notes. Number 1 says find the distance between -2, -5, and 4, 1. Can anybody tell me how we do that? Which is? No one remembers distance? Yep, these are minus. There's a plus in here. Everybody remember? It's the change in x and the change in y squared, added together, square rooted. It's Pythagorean theorem. So -2 to 4. I'm going to do x's first. You can do them in whatever order you want. Y's. Type this in and you get square root of 72, I think. And then the directions on this particular version say round to the nearest hundredth. And on the SAT, it will say things like round to the nearest tenth or hundredth or whatever. Okay. This, I think, is 8 point something. Is it 485? Is that how it looks on the calculator with some more stuff? This is tenths, hundredths. So you would round to 8.49. Now, on the bubble sheet you've been given, the decimal point is already there. So you could either go 0.848 or 49. Yeah, it should be 49, thanks. Or you could just leave the first one blank and do 8.49. On the actual SAT, you'll just have a bunch of blanks. And you would have to decide, I'm going to start over here and put 9, 4, and there'll be a circle here with the decimal point that you would bubble for the decimal point, and 8. Or you could start on the right side and put 8, and then the decimal point, 49. Everybody okay on number 1? Think you got it bubbled in an acceptable way? Okay, I'm going to do number 2, and then I'm going to let you guys try the rest of these in a little bit. I don't want to do it, though. Can you guys do number 2 and tell me what you got? I want you guys to do it. What do you have to do first? You have to distribute before you do that. So we're going to multiply the tops here and get 4 over 10x. And then 4/5 times 1 would be minus 4/5. Now, you can reduce if you want, but whether you reduce or not, the common denominator is what? Okay. How do you do this? Because I get some crazy business. Some of you are doing like 20 times 10 divided by 4. Yeah, this is like you multiply the top and the bottom, right? Or you just do 20 times 4 divided by 10. This means 4 divided by 10. So what did you get after that step? 8x minus 16 equals 5x minus 15, okay? So if we subtract the 5x's, we have 3x. If we add 16 to this side, we get 1. So the answer is 3. Because that's what I get a whole bunch of times when we get to this step. I have people write x equals 3. Did anybody else have 1/3 at the end? Anybody lost? Okay, On this particular sheet, for number 2, make sure you're bubbling in the right spot for number 2. It shows blank, blank, fraction bar, blank, blank. So you would have to bubble the 1 here and the 3 here. What could you do on the SAT, though, that we just talked about? You could do 1 fraction bar 3. You could do zeros. You could do you do not put a 0 at the end, yes. I guess. I would think it would count that, right? You could put 1/3 like this, but what else did we just talk about? Yeah, you could put 0.333, okay? Because that is equivalent. Yeah, this one says use fraction. I don't think on the SAT it does, okay? All right, any more questions on this? We'll come back at the end of the period and try to talk maybe about 3 and 4. What's the symbol on number 6? It is not absolute value. Does anybody remember what those are supposed to be? We have seen those. Sometimes they look like this. It's the round down function or the greatest integer function. It's called the greatest integer function. My name for it is the round down function. So if you go to that last one and you put in a 1.2, add 3 and you get what? 4.2, round down to the previous integer, which would be 4. So number 6, you should bubble a 4. You can put 4.0. What does it look like on there? Yeah, you got to put the 4 in front of the decimal point on that one, but it wouldn't be that way on the SAT. The Mastery Manager and SAT are a little bit different. All right, what I would like you to have out right now is 4B, and we're going to talk about a couple questions on here. All right, before I do number 1, when you see this, what can you tell me about zeros, multiplicity, degree, leading coefficient, any of that? Eric? Good job. Anybody use some different vocabulary to mean the same thing? Yeah, okay. Crosses, kisses the graph, or kisses the x-axis, kisses the x-axis. What about, what were we supposed to call this on the quiz last week? Do you remember? Yes, this one is multiplicity 2, and this is multiplicity 2. Now, when we go to do the worksheet today, because we're given the graph first, I will absolutely take multiplicity 2, and it's what I would write down. But you can't really tell. It could be multiplicity 4 or 6 if you really want to be fancy, okay? Because all you know is it bounces. What about degree and leading coefficient? Can anybody help me with that? There's a -2, there's an x. We can get rid of this and say this one would be an x squared. And this back here would be an x squared. So it is degree 5 with a leading coefficient that is negative. Yes, it's -2, but it's negative. All right, what does this mean about end behavior? Like this? The negative flips it over, right? Okay. So you can visualize a cubic, which looks like this, okay? But the negative flips it upside down. like reflects it, not rotates it. So it's going this way. And because it's a fifth, it might have some gobbledygook in the middle. But the left end should be up. This did not go well for some of you. For the first time, I made you write out what end behavior was. Okay, I used f of x, not y, but I don't know what that was supposed to be. Sorry. If you want to say the left end is up, how do you say left? X is negative infinity, means the x-axis goes off towards negative infinity on the left, yes? Okay, up, y is going up, yes? And those go together. How do you say the right end is down? How do you say right? X approaches infinity, and on this one, it is going down. Better? I tried to write out in words what some of you had, because some of you wrote like it goes up on the left and then down on the left. Yeah, down on the up. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Okay, so if you still have questions about that, let me know. All right, let's look at question number 1 on the worksheet. It says we are to write an equation for this graph. It's 4b. Okay, this is kind of weird, but there's supposed to be a dot here. This dot they've labeled because it was hard for us to tell. And this dot over here they've labeled because it's hard for us to tell. Where are the zeros? And I really don't care if you write them as an ordered pair. You can just list negative 4/3, negative 2, and 1/3, and I'm fine. Anthony said they're all multiplicity 1. Is that true? Okay. They're all multiplicity odd. We're going to go with degree 1, yes. Okay, they're all multiplicity 1 because they cross. Right? Can you write them as factors for me? Would that work? Smush that together. Oh, it should be minus, right? Okay. Somebody is going to call this 3x plus 4. Is that the same thing as negative 4/3? Okay, and that same person would probably call this what back here? 3x minus 1. Is that going to give us a positive 1/3 for a 0? Okay. I'm going to work with the first one, and then I will go back and show you the second one, okay? They are equivalent in the end, but they're going to give you a different stretch when you do the work. It doesn't matter. I will take both, and both are on my answer key. All right. We have to find a stretch, because if I graph this right now, it does not cross the y-axis at 16. Okay? Not even close. There is some kind of a stretch. They have given us this point so that we can calculate the stretch. All right, I'm going to take a little snap of this equation we have here. So what ordered pair are we going to plug in, guys? 0, 16, yes. So we're going to put in 0, 16 to find that stretch. So y is going to be 16. We're trying to find a. X is 0 on all of these. All right. What happens if I multiply all that together? 4/3 times 2 times negative 1/3. Yep, just top all the way across, bottom all the way across, right? So I get negative 8/9. You can use your calculator, but did you get negative 8/9 when you put it back as a fraction? Okay, Now what do we do to finish solving for A? Multiply 16 by 9 and then divide by -8, or multiply by 9 over -8, the reciprocal. Does that seem okay? You can do 16 times 9 and then divide it by -8. It's exactly what we're doing here. I'm getting -18. Did anybody else get -18? So final answer of -18 times x plus 4/3 times x plus 2 times x minus 1/3. All right, let's try Anthony's question. What is the leading coefficient going to be right now, guys? Just -18, right? Because all the rest of these are just x, x, and x. Okay. Let's try this one. All right, what ordered pair are we still putting in? Same thing. Okay, 0, 16. So we have 16 equals. And if you don't have room and you don't want to write this down, just talk me through this. What happens over here? This parenthesis becomes 4, this parenthesis becomes, and this parenthesis becomes -3, right? 0, no, 1. I can't read what I wrote. 3 times 0 minus 1 some days is -1, yes? Okay, so what did all this simplify to? -8, and when we divide it into 16, we get, okay, so if I put a -2 back in up here, okay, this is a big -2. What would the leading coefficient be? I'd have -2. Here we'd have a what? 3x. Here we'd have an x. And what's the leading coefficient in this one? 3x. We're ignoring all this because that doesn't have anything to do with the leading coefficient. What is 3x times 3x times x times -2? -18x cubed. Is that the same thing we got here? -18 when we do x, x, and x, right? All right. You don't have to do both. I will take either one. They are equivalent. You could, no, this is the answer. Either what's in this box right now or what's in this box here without anything crossed out, okay? The answer should have a leading coefficient or a stretch and then the factors written out. Okay, so if you put -18, then this would say x plus 4/3, x plus 2, and x minus 1/3. Did I do that right, guys? Those were the two answers that are okay. Any questions? There's actually other answers because you could have distributed, you could have written the one as 3x plus 4 and left the other one x minus 1/3. Difficult. All right. The other question I want to do is number 4. Will you all look at number 4 with me, please? And then that's all I'm going to do today, except talk about some more SAT stuff if you want me to. Where are the zeros on this picture? Can you tell where they're supposed to be? -3, 0, and 2.5 or 5/2 right there. Okay. Are there multiplicities we need to worry about? Where? Okay, so this one has to have an even multiplicity. I would go with 2. And which other one? Okay, this one also has to have an even multiplicity. I would go with 2. All right. Can anyone write the factors? Are we good? The fact that there's a 0 at 0 means you got to put an X out front, yes? It doesn't matter where you put it. Okay. So several things people forget to do. They forget that X. Sometimes when I ask them about the multiplicities, they will tell me this has an even multiplicity, but then when they write it down here, they forget the little squared. Okay, those two things go hand in hand. We need to find the stretch. What's the ordered pair we're going to put in? Yeah, this disgusting one is given here. It's like that on the quiz too. Why can't I just use 0, 0? Yes, we've already used that. The other thing is if I put a 0 right there, are we going to get a stretch? Is there a stretch at 0, 0? It hasn't stretched, right? It doesn't work yet. It'd be 0 equals 0, which isn't going to help us find the stretch. Okay, so y equals a times all this. What am I going to put in for y? Yeah, this ordered pair is 1, negative 28.8. So I'm going to put negative 28.8 for the y. And all the x's are going to be 1. Okay, so I have negative 28.8 equals a. Well, that one stays 1. This stays 4 squared or 16, right? And back here, what's 1 minus 5/2 quantity squared? It's 9/4 or 2.25. Is that what you got? 1 minus 5. Oh, it is negative 3/2, but when you square it, it's still positive 9/4, right? Or 2.25. Okay, so when you multiply that by 16, you get what? 36. Now what do we have left to do? Okay, divide by 36. And we get a is negative point. What is it? Negative 4/5 or negative 0.8, right? Okay, so if I leave it negative 0.8, and there was a 0 at 0, negative 3, and positive 5/2, and those are multiplicity 2. Do you want me to go through and do it again if I write this as 2x minus 5, or we're okay? What I'd rather talk about is how to check this. How can we check this? Let's go to the calculator. Go to y equals and put in negative 0.8 x parenthesis x plus 3 quantity squared x minus 5/2 quantity squared. What is their window, guys? Their window is roughly what? Negative 5 to 5 for x's and what for y's? Look at the graph paper, guys. Negative 40 to 60 or something. Okay. So put something like that in and see if you get a graph that looks like theirs. How can I check that it's right? I could go trace negative 3. Am I at 0? Yes. 0. Yes. 2.5 or 5/2 is a 0. What's the other point that will tell me if I got the stretch right, though? If I put in a 1, do I get out negative 28.8? Yeah, we did. It's really hard to tell if we don't turn the lights off, I know. But... Okay. Questions on this? So your homework tonight is to do the other 3 questions on that page. That's it. What I would like, do we only have a couple minutes left? Okay, then that's not it. Because the rest of your homework then is to finish the Mastery Manager activity. What do you want me to talk about on the Mastery Manager sheet with the time that I've left? Is 3 the one with the ordered pairs? Okay, what are the ordered pairs? -3 and what? Like that? Did I write it down right? Okay. How do you find the line through this? How do you find slope? Change in y over change in x. Okay, then what? Okay, you could do y equals mx plus b. I did a lot of point slope. Put this point in. Okay, if I distribute, it says I have to do this in standard form. So at some point I have to get rid of all the what? Get rid of all the fractions. So I'm going to multiply everything by 9 at this point. So I get 9y plus 9 equals 4x minus 24. What else does standard form require? So if I move the x to the other side, I have negative 4x plus 9y equals negative 33. If I change all the signs, I have 4x minus 9y equals 33. And it asked you to bubble the value for c, which would be 33. Is the next one the linear regression question? Okay. How do you get to type those in? Stat, enter, yes, stat edit or just stat and enter to put the numbers into list 1 and list 2. It does not specify, and it should not matter, whether you use x equals 0 for 1950. I think that's what I did, so I put in 0, 5, 10, okay? It asks for the correlation coefficient is what it asks you to bubble.